tease this up front, but we've got news, and this news is Joan
Vassos.
Vassos. Joan
Yeah.
Vassos has been announced as the new Golden Bachelorette. She was an early frontrunner in the Golden Bachelor before going out in 12th place after a gut-wrenching self-elimination so she could return home and help her daughter, who had just given birth to a new baby. Kind of a sabbatical, a golden version of a sabbatical in this case.
And she's an interesting choice, and we'll get to the Fhima of it all momentarily. But she's an interesting choice because technically, this is the worst finish for a bachelorette ever in at least the bachelorette history to then become a crown. She beat out Katie Thurston, who finished 11th place in Matt James's season 25, who also beat out Hannah Brown's 7th place finish in Colton Underwood's Bachelor season 23, which at the time, that was the first bachelorette in history outside the top 4 to ever wear the crown. There have been a few bachelors outside of that, but not ever a bachelorette. So,
is she the real underdog?
No. Isn't that who was the real underdog? I don't remember who that was now.
It was Clayton and Rodney.
Rodney, that's right. He stole it from Rodney. Now I remember. But so what happened here? It is
You were guaranteeing me. You said pace case. I guarantee you, Leslie Fhima is the golden crown.
Yeah.
I was so excited. You know, a Minneapolis person. I'm kind of like adopted into Minneapolis in some ways. Some people are saying.
Oh.
So pretty disappointed to not have Fhima doing it.
Yeah.
But am I surprised? No.
Well,
absolutely not. She's literally Trista. It's who I thought they would pick.
Yeah.
For this role, someone who is white and blonde and beautiful and just kind of a safer choice, some might say.
Yeah, I mean, I remember early in the season when she self-eliminated, we both were predicting that they were going to select her, and then everything happened with Leslie Fhima that happened, and she seemed like the odds favorite to become the Golden Bachelorette. I don't know exactly what happened. My belief is, and this is a belief only, I wouldn't call it conjecture exactly, because it may be based on things here and there, but it's my belief. I have no corroborated evidence to back up what I'm about to say. But it's my belief that Fhima was offered the crown in much the same way Maria was, in much the same way that Daisy was. And for one reason or another, she either rejected it or they came to some kind of impasse with production and she wasn't able to fulfill the wearing of that crown. I don't know why or what the details behind the scenes were, but my belief is that's what happened here. I just don't know why they would have held out this long. The reason they're announcing it, by the way, is because ABC and all networks had their upfronts this week where they have to reveal to the public and more importantly to the ad buyers what their fall season is going to be, what their upcoming lineup is going to be, what are the new shows, what are the returning shows. And we'll get to a little bit in the news about a show that's not returning, which we also predicted. But in announcing the Golden Bachelorette is going to be, I believe it's airing on Wednesday nights, and I believe it's an hour and a half long episodes as well. So that's a little different.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they're kind of giving them, it's a slightly bigger order if you're doing it an hour and a half than Golden Bachelor was. Wednesday is interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'll go with you there.
I'm not sure why that is exactly. But they're doing it.
You know what I thought of as soon as I heard this announcement? The Dark Emperor Fleiss quote where it was, I don't know exactly what this was, but it was his vision of the Bachelorette poster was Trista laying on her side.
Yeah.
As just kind of like this bombshell type person who's like, not gonna, it's not going to ruffle any feathers. It's going to be like, in my mind, it is what is your safest option. I think that they believe a widow is a safer option than a twice divorcee in Leslie Fhima. I would say that is a factor. I'm curious whether Leslie Fima's Jewish heritage has anything to do with this.
Hmm.
Just, I don't know. I just have had all these thoughts in my conjecture town about why this happened,
Yeah, I think
especially given your confidence.
I think you're right about the divorce of this all. And I think that because of the golden
Mm.
divorce, they can't go back to that. You know what I mean? Gary Turner and Teresa Ness destroyed season 1. Destroyed the integrity of it by getting divorced, proving that
You think it's the stain on love that changed this?
well, a stain on divorce, or divorce being a stain on love. And I think you're right. Fhima has been divorced. Therefore, there's more associated with her backstory with Gary Turner and Teresa Nist, which, in my opinion, again, has proven the process invalid, which they cannot now do again. As you're saying, they need their Trista. That has to be Vassos. And I agree with you. A widow is a more compelling or more sympathetic story than is divorce. No, just at its face. I don't know the circumstances of any of these things. And I'm not saying.
To be clear, this is all what I think are the Bachelor decision makers' opinions. These are not my opinions at all.
Exactly.
I think Joan will be fantastic.
I think anybody from that season. I mean, really, it's I think a circumstance that's very similar to what Bachelor season 28 was. Anybody in the top 10 is going to be a great lead. They could have picked literally anyone. And you're seeing that
that's what that season was.
Yeah.
Gary's season was about the women.
Yeah, totally.
Period. And I think that a lot of them that was the effect of that season was I wanted to see a Golden Bachelorette of each one of those characters.
Absolutely. I agree.
And that PTC, it was just so for TRR, her leaving, and also she had the vibe of a front runner when she was leaving. So it's like, what could have been?
And
it's kind of like when that player left Matt James's season, who was so good.
It
to me.
Definitely the time cut short element of it is something that they have honored here and there in Bachelor, when for whatever reason, a circumstance beyond your control, you have to leave the game early. I always think back to Desiree Hartsock, who became Bachelorette after essentially getting an Addams Family elimination from her brother, calling then Bachelor Sean Lowe a playboy. I think you're a playboy. Remember this? So
remember it. How could I forget?
You're like, remember it. I watch it every night.
That's on the deathbed.
Me too.
Montage.
Me too.
You're a playboy.
But I think Joan Vassos hits that category of time cut short for circumstances beyond her control. And therefore, she is now being given this second chance.
Circumstances beyond her control that are also related to what a good mom she is, theoretically.
Yeah, that too. That's a big piece of this too. But let's move on to talk about...
Wait.
Yeah.
Sorry, one other thing. Here's why I am so excited about Joan being the Golden Bachelorette is the content. The Golden players, we were wondering, are they going to become influencers?
Yeah.
Is it going to have the same effect as the main game? To me, Joan was one of the standout players in terms of her TikTok content. She was mastering. She knows how to do effects that I don't know how to do. And, I'm basically Gen Z.
Me too.
Like such a young millennial. Look at this bucket hat.
I'm a young Gen X.
YouTube.
That's Gen Z, right? Young Gen
You're
X.
Such a young Gen X.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
You're basically a mid-range millennial in my mind.
Oh, interesting. I'll take it.
Touch the 1900s, but barely.
Barely.
I was just a baby.
I was born in 1976. That makes me a very old millennial. All right. So,
you got the glass quarter in there.
At the time of the Golden Bachelorette announcement, Joan Vassos had 30.9K followers on Instagram and 39.7K on TikTok. Since then, she has risen to 38.9K on Instagram, gaining 8,000 essentially, and 40.6K on TikTok, gaining roughly 1,000. But she's doing better on TikTok than she is Instagram, which I find pretty interesting.
Let's go.
Yeah.
She is a Golden Bachelorette for Gen Z.
Something like this. Now,
wouldn't you say there is a generational divide on the social media. It's like my rough estimate is it's like Gen X, Facebook, millennials, Instagram, Gen Z, TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way it's shaping out. It's seeming like every generation is getting their own social media platform on which they can express themselves, communicate, et cetera, et cetera. Who knows what will be around for Gen Alpha with the advent of AI creating whole new social media platforms almost on a daily basis. Should be interesting to watch. But yes, I kind of agree with you. I think that's the commonly held belief that these platforms, each one exists for a generation. And I would even say Facebook
Well,
is not even Gen X. I would say Facebook is more boomer.
boomer.
Yeah. Gen X,
Well, maybe Joan will be maybe she'll transcend generation
yeah,
and she'll be a 3 platform player.
possibly. That's great. That's like a 5-tool
Could
baseball
be.
player. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people call Gen X the lost generation or the forgotten generation because numbers wise,
Why?
we're the smallest generation. There are more boomers than us, and there are more millennials than us. There are certainly more Gen Z than us.
Hmm.
And therefore, nothing was ever really marketed to
Why?
us. Why what?
Why are there fewer?
That I don't know. People didn't like to procreate as much in that time period. I don't know. But we didn't have a lot of products marketed to us, and we were very skeptical of things that were marketed to us. Our kind of antagonistic relationship with marketing is very well known. We're like an apathetic generation that stuff doesn't work on. So we've kind of been left out of the mix. And for that reason, I would say Gen X doesn't really have a platform. We're kind of on all of them.
Hmm.
Nonetheless, let's move on to discuss this, if I may. The guys of this
You may.
season. That is what I've really started to focus on now. So we know it's Joan Vassos. She's going to be the quarterback basically of this season. Who are the guys that she's going to be playing with, and how does the fact that it's going to be guys, golden guys, factor into what this season will be like? I think there is.
I think it's going to factor in a lot. I
Yeah,
think it's way easier to cast Golden Bachelor than Golden Bachelorette.
I agree.
Just given some, women tend to live
Yeah.
longer, be healthier longer. Um, there are more single women in that age range
Mhm.
than men, I would imagine. I don't know the data, but that's got to be true.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm curious, are they going to bring in any ringers? Will they bring back Kelsey Anderson's father,
Yes.
your Sweetenham's parental player? You think he'll be in this season competing?
100% yes. And I
I mean,
think,
in that case, there's your front
yeah,
runner
I think they have
for
strong.
next Golden Bachelor.
Um, I believe they have strong incentive to keep him in a long time too, maybe to be the next Golden Bachelor, as you're saying. But at least I don't think they'll do what they did to like Matt James' mom on the first season of Golden Bachelor or Sweetnum's friend. I don't think they're going to night one them. I don't think they'll do that to
They
him.
better not.
Yeah,
I hated what they did to Patty.
I agree.
The disrespect.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think that there are
Hmm.
certain kind of social expectations of the guys that are different from the women, specifically about financial well being? Do you think that a man who is 65
Oh,
or over is kind of expected to have, at least if you're on this show, to have accumulated a certain amount of money?
100%. That is going to be a factor. I think it was a factor in Golden Bachelor.
Yeah.
And I I don't want to quote my friend's dad who told me this, but he was telling me what he thought about Golden Bachelor. He's like, you know what that is? They're looking for a nurse or a purse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the same is kind of true here. I'm also kind of curious about, there's a possibility, as we know in all the regular games, guys who are pro athletes or on the verge of becoming that. That's a very common theme across all seasons of Bachelorette in the guy player pool. We even have Jesse Palmer, who's
Hmm.
the current host, was an ex NFL quarterback. Colton Underwood.
Oh, we're definitely going to have some ex-athletes.
Right. So in that case, this isn't guys who almost made it like Colton Underwood and Tyler Cameron and Matt James and didn't make it. These are going to be guys who did play in these sports professionally, possibly in a player pool, a second audience of guys who watched them on TV. So you may have in this,
Dane Blanton?
I don't know about Dane Blanton, but he would be great. He may be married with kids. I don't know what his
He's
relationship
probably
status
married.
is. He, of course, for those who don't know, Dane Blanton was,
For those who don't know.
well, some people may not. He was in,
No, I mean, I think no one will know.
oh, well, for those who don't know, for everyone then, Dane Blanton was on the possible list of bachelors for Bachelor Season 3 way back in, I believe, 2004. The guy who was selected for that season was Andrew Firestone, billed as the real millionaire in opposition to what was then Fox's first season of Joe Millionaire. Dane Blanton was in that mix. And the first episode of that season 3 showed the guys who were kind of the finalists for Bachelor selection that year. Dane Blanton was a black guy who was an Olympic, I think, gold medalist beach volleyball player. And he could have been the first white bachelor back in season 3. Instead, it was Andrew Firestone. So I would love to see him get another shot at this franchise, because I always wondered, what would the franchise have been like had he been bachelor in that early era of the game? So maybe we'll see something like that. But I don't know what level of sports celebrity we might see, but I think we're going to see one. I think that's something they want to do.
I mean, they have never cast a Bachelorette season that doesn't have any athletes. You know, I think it's a staple. And that's kind of like the male version of pageants. You know, it kind of prepares you a little bit for this game. I'm hopeful that it will be a great crop of people for Joan, that it's going to make us feel as hopeful and believing in love as we did for Golden Bachelor. I'm hoping we get that feeling again. I didn't stop believing.
I did.
I won't.
I never started believing. Let me ask you this. You compared her to Tris.
Oh, clues.
You compared her to Trista Sutter. Do you think she's going to deliver the same goods? Is she going to give us a marriage that lasts 20 plus years with children? Probably not the children.
I know Joan. She is, well, I don't think there will be more children, but I believe she will stay with her ring winner at least a year.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to make, I just know they're going to have to keep them together at least until the next Golden Bachelor.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a huge focus for the producers, to at least be like, okay, there's some kind of proof of concept here after that big stain on love.
Yeah.
Gary and Teresa breaking up.
Will we
so fast?
Will we have a forced televised wedding like we did with Gary and Teresa?
If Joan wants it, we'll see a wedding. Oh yeah.
Does it truly matter for her to be married to this guy? I know that in the early days of Bachelor, they needed a season to work out to prove the process. Even though this is Golden, and that's a new version of this within the franchise. The franchise has been around for 22 years, and some people have gotten married, a handful, most of them not. Do we care about the proof of process anymore? Does Joan really have to get married? I will still watch another season of Golden Bachelor or Bachelorette or whatever they throw in front of me, whether she gets married or not.
You know, sometimes it's hard for me to put myself in the mind of a civilian, you know, because I'm like, oh yeah, I'll watch literally anything they ever make forever. I am trapped here. But I don't think they need the proof of concept that they did with Trista. Because guess what? Trista was in an era where this literally had never happened before.
Yeah.
And dating shows in general seemed like a joke. It was so experimental. And now that we have, you know, literally just reality TV heaven right now.
I know.
So many different dating shows, so many different types. I think people are so much more used to the format that they don't need that marriage success story. I think they'll get it.
I do too.
Maybe Joan.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
But I don't think it has to be Joan.
We will see. But that's the state of the game. Joan Vassos is your first Golden Bachelorette. It has been announced. That show is going to air later this year, probably at the end of the summer, I would guess, beginning of the fall, as it did last year, with no Paradise.
I can't wait.
Which we'll get to in news. But first, let's move on.
Well, Yes, and that's another reason I think Joan will stay with her ring winner is she is an influencer. She knows what's what. She knows what to do. I think more than Gary did.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. She also didn't get
I don't know.
to be immersed in the situation as long. You know, I think there is a weird undercurrent
Mm-hmm.
in the players of Golden Bachelor. Some of them seem to be kind of against the show or against Gary a little bit. And those are generally
I
speaking,
mean, we should talk about the Ellen post, right?
sure.
Ellen Goltzer posted in reaction to this. Well, we don't know what it's in reaction to. She posted an Instagram post. It is a black image with a red heart written on it. And it says in text, "Don't be a woman that needs a man. Be a woman a man needs." And the caption reads, "Believe in yourself and it will happen," heart emoji. And some people were wondering, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Did it mean that she was up for it and is disappointed? Does it mean
I don't know.
she doesn't?
But that post
I
came
don't know.
out on the day of the announcement. So it seemed linked in some way. It seemed to comment on the entire
Mm-hmm.
process of The Bachelor or Golden Bachelor in one way or another. I don't know exactly what it was, but I do think there is this undercurrent of players from Golden Bachelor who are kind of against the franchise now, that maybe don't want to be a part of it or see it as somehow bad or
Hmm.
fake, because there have been some rumblings about Gary just being on the show for clout, that he wanted to come on there to be famous, and the producers knew it and they were covering it up and all this. So who knows? Who knows? But
Hmm.
that is in the mix.
Interesting. I think if you're a Golden Bachelor player right now who's not selected, you should be buddying up to Joan as much as possible. You want to get on that
Yes,
season, be the sisterhood that's supporting her for guest dates. I think we're guaranteed going to see Trista.
100%. Trista's on every Golden season from here until there's a new Trista, which is never. I mean, I think she's got that
Which is
job
not.
locked if she wants it.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Well,
let's move on, Pace
I
Case.
hope that the pit is excited about this choice as we are.
Yeah, I definitely
Because
am.
I know there's been, some kerfuffles lately where you think someone's going to be it and then they're not. Clues promised me
Yeah.
and he was wrong. And that's fine.
I don't know if I was exactly wrong. I think there's a version of this where Leslie Fhima was the Golden Bachelorette, just like Maria was the
Okay.
Bachelorette, and some things fell apart. I don't have any evidence to that end. I just have a feeling, and my feelings are usually right about these things. If I ever do get any
Maybe
evidence,
Joan promised she would move to wherever the person is from.
yeah,
Because I
that's
do
probably
think
what it
that is a
was.
big problem with the show.
I do too. I obviously that supposedly is why the Golden Divorce happened, because they couldn't reconcile moving to be with one another. Now let's move on